Hello, everybody. Right, well, I would have actually liked to have announced or released something before now, but it is Tuesday. If this comes out Tuesday night, everything's gone well. It's been a bit of a while. Well, I don't also think it was a bad thing. Let the situation breathe a little bit. Mario released a video yesterday which had English subtitles, which I think covered most things pretty good, but I just thought, I would do my own little summary from my perspective, start from the beginning. Well, I don't really know where the beginning is. And just, yeah, let you have it. I mean, I've come straight from the vlog. I decided not to put what I said on Sunday night in the end of the vlog, not because of anything I didn't like what I said. In fact, I watched it back just afternoon and thought, I mean, I'm going to say pretty much the same thing now. I just That's an annoying time to bring me, isn't it? Right, yeah. Where was I? Oh, yeah. It wasn't in the end of the vlog because I honestly felt like, despite how it ended, it was, and Hixpania always is such a good race. And even say in the vlog, it's a good race to come and watch. It's an amazing event, and the race itself was unreal. Like me and Manny passed each other several times, most laps, and I just thought the whole video and event and race was so good that it didn't need a 10-minute rant stuck at the end of it. Well, rant's probably not the right word either, but explanation. That's what it was. It didn't need the explanation at the end. That's why we're here. Where do we begin? Got this. That's not really where we begin, is it? That's probably where we end. In fact, to begin with, what I would say is that this is most definitely not isolated or specific. Like, it wasn't obviously Hixpania as it's been a build up of years, over a lot of years. I feel like from riders, like we really haven't felt listened to for a long time, and we feel things are going in a direction which, again, we're not being listened to. And it's not. I would say the protest was not specifically aimed at Hixpania Hard Enduro 2025, although there was parts of that that definitely just kind of tipped things over the edge. This has been a build up over several years. And I will also just say, like, I had dinner Sunday evening with the championship promoters and the race organizer himself, and we had pretty open, honest conversations. And it's in everyone's best interest to put things right going forward and for everyone to be happy. So, done about no hard feelings. I think they're obviously not happy with what we did, but like I say, we sat down and had dinner, had a beer Sunday night, and just talked about how we can move forward in the best way possible. So anyway, regarding what actually took place on Sunday, from my perspective, and from now on, obviously we've grouped together and we made the decision as all the riders. We actually do have a riders association now, which I don't know exactly what comes from that, although I do know it does kind of add a bit of credibility and just unites us that little bit more. But from the rest of it, I'm kind of just talking from my own perspective. So Sunday, we parked up in the quarry on the start line, walked out, and then we always just go and have a quick last minute look at the first uphills and then a couple of bits of whatever else is in the quarry. I walk out of the cave and see that the X loop has a completely new entrance, a new first uphill that wasn't there when we walked the track. And just to add a little bit more context, we were only allowed to walk the track from the hours of from Friday afternoon, basically. We weren't allowed to look at it Saturday, we weren't allowed to look at it Sunday morning. So we only had this set period of time we could walk the track and come to the start of the race Sunday morning, and there's a whole extra hill, which in itself isn't that bad, but when they're trying to bring in rules in a strict schedule, and then we only have that small window to walk the track, and then the track isn't finished being marked, or there's things change, like that in itself is the first point where I think was incorrect. So anyway, most of the riders are on there walking the track and just like all in agreement, like this is a bit unnecessary. And that is the general consensus. Like, we actually had a meeting, all riders, on Friday evening, and said, with the championship promoters, and said, we don't like the direction we're going in terms of these X loops. And Aberstone, for example, we were supposed to do 5 laps of the X loop. Hixpania is renowned for having just quite on the limit hills at the end of the race. And as well, it's not about like, can we get up them or not, or we don't have the balls to go up them. I did see one comment saying that, and honestly, that's like laughable. Like, it's not about that. It's just about how we want to be seen and how we think the sport is going to work best. So we already had this discussion Friday saying, but a hill climb to the finish or something like that is nice, but like, we feel like we're being made to look like circus performers at the end of a race. Sorry, like, we raced for 2 hours, and like I say, me and Manny going back and forth, had an amazing battle for 2 hours, to then have to perform for this X Loop, which I feel like all of these thoughts have been heightened at Hixpania because they had a live stream on the X Loop, which they also changed some rules. So the supplementary regulations were updated on Friday evening. I read them and just thought, this is ludicrous, to be quite honest. Like, they basically had been changed to ensure that 10 riders would get into the X Loop, which I get when you put the effort into having an X Loop and only me and Manny make it in there, like what happened at Aberstone. That's also not a good outcome. I'm not saying that that's the solution, but when the whole race rules and duration of the race for certain people or like certain positions have now been changed just to try to put more people into the X Loop, I start to feel like, what is the priority here? Like, are we racing for 2 hours, or do we just want to get 10 people into this show and put 10 people pushing up hills at the end of a race? Like, basically the change was, if you're inside the top 10, I'll just get it up just to double check. After 2 hours, Hixpania Hill opens. As soon as the leader enters the Hixpania Hill, the entrance is open. The top 10 riders of the current race standing at that lap count will be allowed to continue. So basically, the top 10 riders can continue after the 2 hour mark if you've been lapped, to unlap yourself to then enter the X Loop. First problem I had is, if 9th, 10th, and 11th are all in a battle together, 9th and 10th are allowed to continue, but 11th place has to stop and just park up and like, your race is done. 9th and 10th are off to do another lap because they can unlap themselves. And I just feel like everyone's race duration is then going to be so different. But then, so the top and bottom of it is, you're affecting the main race that's going on purely just to try and get more people in the X Loop where the live stream is, when to me, there's such a good race happened. There's like an amazing racetrack, and I don't know what was happening behind me, but my pit board said James Moore was third, then Francesc Moret was third, and then Mario was third. So me and Manny were obviously battling each other and passing each other left, right, and centre. I'm pretty confident that was also happening behind. Cover the race, cover the actual racetrack. Don't put so much pressure on people arriving and in the show happening at the end of the race. So that's kind of the first point to me anyway, is that we feel like there's so much pressure being put on this circus act, which is the X Loop at the end of the race. And like I say, I get a hill climb to the finish line is nice. That whole amphitheatre atmosphere and the quarry that happens at Hixpania, it's amazing. The fans should gather there to see something. But the hills that were put there, and it isn't a question, can you get up them or down them? Obviously we can. Circling back to, we're walking the track, or like we're looking at the track before the race. It rained overnight. It was pretty wet. We're all looking at each other like, we're going to push up all of these hills. Like, do we want to be pushing up motorbikes up hills to reach the finish line? Multiple of them as well, like 1, 2, more than 5. And if you're in a battle with somebody, obviously, all your focus is on getting to the finish line. You're not caring about how fast your wheel's spinning, how much roost you're spitting up behind. So there's big rocks can be spat left, right, and centre. We're there, we're looking at each other, talking to each other, saying, "What? Like, this is too much. Like, at some point, there's a limit. We need to say, like, we're not happy with this. If we do this will then become the new norm, and then the next race will have a wild X Loop, and then the next race will have an even wilder X Loop, and it'll just become a competition. Who has the maddest fucking contraption to get to the finish line?" We called the race organisers over, and they were definitely not up for changing anything. Like, Alfredo expressed in Spanish, like, think it's dangerous. It's raining, it's wet. We don't like it. They weren't up for changing anything, and I could get that as well. Like, it's 20 minutes before the start. I fully get this isn't really an appropriate time to be voicing up. We had mentioned to the track managers in a couple of occasions about it, and they all just told us they're not going to listen. We're not allowed to change the X loop, is the answer we got. So I get 20 minutes before the race isn't the best time. However, we're all there saying we would like it to be changed. That wasn't happening. It was at that point when I just said and thought, I think at some point, there's no compromise going on here. Like, they're not willing to compromise. If they do, we lose our voice. Like, we need to, at some point, say, enough's enough. That's not how we want our races to go. And that's why I feel like it was as much a protest and a statement to the race guys as it was to the championship promoters, who are in their first year. They took over the championship this year. So I think really have to be given the benefit of the doubt until next year to bring changes in. And like I say, we've had several positive meetings, and I do have quite a lot of hope that things can move forward with them guys. But I feel like it was as much of a statement to them to say, this isn't how we want to do things in future. You need to work with race organisers to ensure that this doesn't happen. So anyway, you could see there was no movement coming from the race guys. We then, as riders, said on the start line that when the 2 hours is up, first rider to cross the finish line, to cross lap scoring, stops. And that's where we're going to do. And then whatever happens, happens. But first person that crosses lap scoring after 2 hours, stops at the base of the quarry or the exit of the cave, and we go from there. Amazing race unfolds. Me and Manny had in my opinion, one of the best battles we've ever had. I came out on top and then came out the cave, and I stopped. I mean, that wasn't up for debate, really. I think we're at a time where us sticking together is an amazing thing, and is such a good thing to happen. So I stopped. Manny stopped. The very first thing that I said to Chili, the race organizer, I said, we're going to do the X loop or do your track. We're just not going to race it. The race for us stops here. Like, we are stopping, everyone's agree, and they weren't very happy, obviously, understandably, in some ways. Mario stopped. They tried to convince Mario to keep going. He said, no, I'm with them guys. And so basically we waited for everybody, basically top 7 guys or 8 guys, I think it was. Obviously, no one had a phone or anything, so we didn't have the exact results. People were telling us who was all on the same lap, and we waited to, our knowledge, everybody that was on the same lap to stop, which now I've actually just watched some videos back. I seen Graham, when I arrived into the finish line, Graham was like 30 meters ahead of us, so he was actually still on the lead lap. So he was the only one that we didn't wait for, because, like I say, we didn't have the actual results and stuff. It was a bit chaotic. So we all waited at the bottom of the quarry and said, let's go and finish this, put on a show for the spectators, like, do some revs, do some burnouts. Like, these people are stood there. They don't understand the big picture. They've paid money to be here. The race people have also invested a lot of time, a lot of money into putting this on. Like, we do some form of show. We all agreed that was the best thing to do, and then we set off and we said, like, no overtaking, or if you're like, this order is going to arrive to the finish line, how we arrived here. That's basically what we said. So I set off first, obviously, and then did the first bit, which was the same every lap, and then arrived to where the X loop should start. Now, this is where this part of the confusion comes in, because this Hixpania hill, which wasn't the finish line hill like in previous years, was the first uphill, the one which wasn't taped when we walked the track, which is the hill that kind of started all the controversy before the race. Basically, I get to the bottom of there and I'm looking up, and from what I can say, go back to when I was speaking to Chili, the race organizer, and explaining that we're stopping, but we're going to continue. To my recollection, he told me then he's took the hill out. So then anyway, we've continued. I get to the bottom of the hill, and in fact, I wasn't going to edit any of this video, but this is how the tape was. I'll put it up on the screen somewhere. From the bottom, obviously, it just looks like the tape goes straight across, and that hill has been closed, because that's genuinely what I thought I heard the organizer say. As you can see, there is a slight gap. You're supposed to go like round the back and then U-turn in and then basically do the hill from starting halfway up the hill. I guess that is the organizer's intention. I don't actually know. But from the bottom, it looked closed. So I go up the normal hill, which circle back to the point of the rule change, which in previous years, when 2 hours is up, the race is done, the lead riders on the lead lap go into the X loop, the rest of the track's done. The original uphill would have tape all the way across it, and it would funnel you into the X loop. Obviously, now with this new rule change where you can unlap yourself, they can't do that anymore. Bit off topic, but also very relevant, because that rule change just blows my mind. So I've went up the main hill, got to the top, like the tape and the fence, nothing's really made sense. I'm like, I don't know where the fuck the track goes. I just know that the next downhill is next. So marshals have kind of opened the fence for me. Like, no one was telling us you've missed the hill. No one said that's not the right way. They were all just like cheering, laughing. Like, no one really knew what the fuck was going on. Obviously, the 7 riders had just stopped 500 meters before the finish line. Anyway, so marshals opened the flag, opened the tape. The fence, sorry, I'd kind of gone one way, Manny had went another way. We both met at the top of this downhill. We then do the rest of the X loop. We did the whole thing as it was marked, stayed in the tape, rode to the finish line. I get to the finish line, cross the line, lift the sword, think I've won. Everyone's happy, like the amazing race. I came out on top, won the sword 2 years in a row. Hey! And yeah, that's what I thought. We then stayed up there, did a team picture, explained to the media that was there kind of our thoughts and feelings and what went on, and everyone kind of went on their way. I rode off down to the podium. It wasn't until me and Manny got to the podium, Manny got told he was 4th and I was 3rd, and we're just like, what? Like, how does this work? It then becomes clear that Graham and Sonny, who have obviously arrived quite a long time after we'd done Hixpania Hill, or not done Hixpania Hill, let's say, and they got told by a member of the organisation, which has been confirmed, if you go up this hill, you'll win. Or Graham got told, if you go up this hill, you'll win, because the other guys have missed it out. Not on purpose, not even to my knowledge, they would miss it out. Like, I had zero clue. Anyway, so this member of the organisation told Graham, if you go up this hill, you'll win, because you're the only one that's completed the track. Which Graham knew no better. And in fairness, Graham wasn't part of the discussions before the race, because Graham isn't eligible to score FIM points. That's not really the reason he wasn't part of the discussion. It was just like, it was such a fast-paced thing, and the race was about to start, etc., etc. Graham went up the hill, got to the finish line. I think even when he got to the finish line, he didn't realize he'd won. I don't think. And then obviously Sonny followed him, and they came 1st and 2nd, and I got told I was 3rd, which I think brings it up to speed. I'm probably going to watch this back and be annoyed that I've missed some things out. The top and bottom of it is that, well, I will say I do think it was the wrong decision to put them 1st and 2nd. Whether that gets me, people give me shit for that or not. It's the most bizarre situation. And I've got nothing against Graham and Sonny as well, by the way. Like, I have zero animosity towards them, like absolutely nothing. But yeah, a bizarre set of circumstances. Ultimately, I think it was really good that the riders did stick together and that we did make a point, because we do feel like we're being made to perform like circus animals at the end of a race, when it's just not necessary, in our opinion. Like, there's enough amazing racing goes on. And again, like, the people that said were scared and they're the only people that could bleed, it was nothing. Like, the reason the result changed, yes, we wanted the track to be changed at the start of the race, because of safety concerns and more just if the worst was to happen. But it was the reason the result change wasn't because we were scared to go into a track. It was because we generally had no clue where the track went and no one told us that we hadn't done that hill. There was one marshal who'd said afterwards he was waving us to go into this start gate, but I've also seen a pretty blurry, not clear video, and it's not much of a wave. He kind of just is stood there, and then when after I ride past, after you can clearly see me like staring up at this hill, he just kind of walks away. So again, it's such a tricky one. Like, and luckily that's the one saving grace, is that Graham and Sonny weren't eligible for FIM points. So from a World Championship perspective, it hasn't actually made a difference. And I think that is like, we're so lucky that that is the situation. Otherwise, I can assure you, shit would be fucking hitting the fan. Right. Anyway, right, there you have it. Hopefully that's cleared up some confusion. It is a massively complex scenario. I don't disagree with that. That was my perspective and my take on things. I shall be keeping my bronze trophy as a memory from the day that shit hit the fan. Anyway, right. Thank you. Peace and love all. To the knobheads that said I was too scared to ride up that hill. All see you in a bit.